Live. You're very popular. You already have.
Okay, sir.
You ready?
Yes.
Yep, go ahead.
As chair of the select board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to executive order 2020-4, the body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom and the YouTube live stream for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone: 603-36-4730. And or by, you can also email, can't you, Mark?
Yes, to the town of WV.
Okay, town of WV at
WatervilleValley.org.
Okay.
Correct.
We're providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the town at www.watervillevalley.org. Providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-236-4730 or email at townofwv@watervillevalley.org. B, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Margaret Turner, just my dogs.
Rich Rita, just me.
Mike Aronson, alone.
Very good.
Okay. Shall we proceed? As long as we are having this special meeting, we decided to also have a coronavirus update today. So why don't we start with you, Chris? You can give the public safety update.
We currently have no major changes other than what the governor said on Friday. The parking issues that we're having. There's no parking on town roads. We had a few incidences. I believe it was yesterday. I wasn't here, but it was yesterday. So no parking on town roads. Depot Camp is open for parking. And, you know, we just encourage people to walk from where they're staying to the trailheads and for their recreation. We're still in good shape at here. I guess other than that, we just are listening to what the governor has to say, and that's all online. The guidance is on NHDHHS. And I don't know if anybody else has questions or wants to add to that, but we're still following the guidelines.
Okay, and Chris, we're still in the 1 to 4 cases category?
Yes, as of yesterday, yes.
Yes. Okay. Any questions for Chris? All right. Public Works isn't here, right, Mark?
No, I can just give you a quick update. The Public Works staff is still on their limited manning plan through Friday. On Monday, next Monday, they will be coming back fully staffed, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the personnel policy changes. But that will allow them to start their regular cleanup. They are doing that on a limited basis this week, but they will be able to start. That's probably the number one question that we're getting here about Public Works is when will the street sweeping and that sort of thing begin? So Monday, he'll have the full crew back, and that's on his work list.
Okay, and Mark, everybody's healthy in that group, correct?
That's correct. Everybody is healthy. And
Yeah,
that includes the transfer station and water and sewer. Everybody is good to go.
Okay, that was another thing I wanted to ask Chris and you. As far as we know, all of our town employees continue to be healthy.
That's correct. I did
And
ask, go ahead.
That is correct, and we're monitoring all of our employees daily, twice a day.
How does that monitoring take place, Chris?
We're taking temperatures, and on our sheet, it's all recorded, and there's a brief questionnaire each time we take our temperature as far as any other symptoms.
Okay, and that's for all town employees, including post office and.
Well, that it'll start right now. It's for public safety employees. That is part of the personnel policy changes that we're going to talk about, but it will extend to all employees as of Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do have one other thing for public safety that Jim wanted me to ask you. He is scheduling the painting road lines and that sort of thing. He wanted to get some guidance from the board about putting down the sidewalk, pedestrian, and the bicycle markings along the road. So if you don't have any problem with doing that, we're going to refresh the existing markings the way that we have them, which is pedestrian markings on the downturns of the sidewalks at the intersections, and then the bicycle icons outside of the white outside lines on the roads. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna make my annual request that the sign coming out of village condominiums that says no stopping
Yeah,
by order of the selectmen,
yeah,
which is right across from the stop sign.
yeah,
Can we maybe get that taken out this year?
okay. Yeah, that sign was, I don't know if you remember, but that sign was put up because the Schutz bus used to stop there. And the sight distances aren't good at that particular point. So that's why that sign got, but it is confusing for someone at the stop sign to be looking right at that sign. So we will take it down.
Okay, thank you.
Just one more thing in regards to that. I've been waiting for them to come in to do the striping. Having it in mind that we should possibly look at reconfiguring the III road at the access road, the stop sign coming out of III road to the access road, kind of putting that up higher up in the intersection with a yellow line that kind of diverts people to go more perpendicular to the road instead of, it's kind of like a yield now.
Okay.
So if we curve that up, so that people are perpendicular to, I don't know if I'm explaining
Yeah,
this.
no, I understand what you mean. And you mean where the stop bar is to get them more perpendicular to the road, to III
Correct.
road.
and diverting people with just a solid, just a single yellow line around the corner and putting the stop bar so it's perpendicular to the road.
Got it. Yeah, we'll talk to Jim about that and draw it out for him so he can give it to the painting crew.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and there was a question from Wendy Rathgaber about the size of the bicycle icons. We will make them as large as we can. We are limited in some spots with the size of the shoulder, but we will use the larger, we do have a larger icon, and we will use the larger icon that we have for the bicycles.
Okay. Brooke, you're up. What's happening? You have to unmute there. Yeah.
Well, we are really on hold. That we didn't get a lot of information or clarification from Friday's address, except for that we're still waiting. We have a lot of projects that are happening, but in terms of camp, our events, we're kind of on hold and the industry is kind of on hold trying to determine where we can fit in this. There are several sort of matrices coming out from various places like the National Parks and Rec Association talking about the high and low risk of various activities. That was just released today. There's this CPC guidelines along with the YCA and the American Camp Association. But of course, those would be guidelines nationally, and then each state will that they're going to even run these programs. So we really are on hold in a lot of ways. I have some recommendations, and we have some sort of operating procedures that we think may fit if we're allowed to go forward, including waterfront operations, camps, and then events. After seeing the what Ashland put out, that seemed like that. When you're looking at people, 50, groups of 50 or less, that's going to take some of our things out of the equation. So again, we're just kind of waiting and trying to determine what's our drop dead date of how long we can wait and then still proceed.
So my request of the board is just to make sure as Brooke continues to plan that it's something you want us to continue to do, that you want us to pursue being able to do the programming if we can. And I just want to be clear that that's a direction you want us going in. So is this what you want us to do?
Have you heard anything from any of the other rec departments in the area about their camps or that kind of thing? Or is everybody just kind of in a holding pattern?
Well, many people are in a holding pattern, and some people are canceling. I mean, I've heard more cancellations, starting to go into fall, in terms of events and things. But in terms of camps, a lot of people are on hold. Lincoln did cancel everything last week, but they have since Woodstock apparently wasn't kind of on board. The Lincoln board made that cancellation, so now they're sort of back in the holding pattern. But I think everyone's just really nervous about it, but kind of in a holding pattern. And I think now the issue is how long can we wait before we're told that we can go ahead? Does that make sense? I mean, we need at some point to know, but now it feels as if we're going to be waiting until at least the end of the month to get further direction, unless something drastically changes within the state.
Yeah, Mike?
What I would like to see, Brooke, if possible, is we have our next selectmen's meeting is on the 13th. And if we could see a plan to bring us into operation on a limited basis and how you would come to deal with some of the issues that will probably be existing in June and July.
Yeah,
so
and that's something that we're working on that we want to show you, but there's still so many variables.
No, I've got you. But the idea is, how are you going to run? How many kids? Are the kids all going to be from Waterville? Are you going to take this? How are you going to drop off? What are you going to do with rainy days? Just an idea. So maybe if we are given some discrepancy on our part as to what we can do. Maybe we can have a background before we need to make that decision.
Okay, so that's one thing I really need guidance with. Like, I can give you what our plan is for drop off, for pickup, for, you know, changing, for using bathrooms. I mean, we can give you kind of that part of it, but what I will need help with is, how do you decide who gets to attend the camp? Because right now, based on what Sununu said on Friday, it's going to be New Hampshire residents and members, okay?
Yeah, that's a tough
Maybe
one.
that's how they'll say it, or maybe that is, and right now, many camps haven't even opened up their registration process, so they don't have anyone. They're waiting for all of that, and we chose to open up our registration process, so many of our camps are full. So how do you then go back and say, you know, who goes and who doesn't? So I guess I need help and guidance on how to make those decisions. I mean, members could be, you are technically a member of the rec in some cases, so.
Right. The native pass.
Yeah, so I guess I would need help on that, but we are working really hard on how can we run these groups and how can we use the best, how can we use our space in the best way, because there are qualifications about how many bathrooms you need for how many kids, and we don't really qualify for that as it is. So we need to look at getting more bathrooms, or, you know, we're looking at putting up a tent in Packard Field so we can run some of our events and space out there. So there might be some new expenses involved. So do we want to spend more so that we can create? I'm not.
Well, the other thing I'd like to point out that's come up today is that if you look at Governor's emergency order number 40, local governments are exempted from any of the provisions of stay-at-home 2.0. And that is a question that NHMA has gone back to the governor's office and asked specifically if that is a blanket exemption or if it's just the personnel side of it, because that's gonna raise, I actually think it's gonna raise more questions than help us, because it's gonna be, what does that mean? Does that mean that we don't have to abide by the 50-person rule if that's what it is? Or, you know, what exactly does a municipal exemption mean? So we're trying to get that information back as well.
Yeah, but I think, Brooke, what we're asking, you having the expertise in running the camp and the square footage needed and staff needed and all that, is to come back to us with a plan that would where you would put your kids in a camp for the summer and feel safe with them there. Mm-hmm. How would you do it, and can we do it?
So that's, yep, and it's great because my kids are there on occasion, and I am looking at it with that eye, as well as the other staff that work there. I think the real question here is, say that it's like, you know, we have 8 kids and 2 counselors, which is very small groups, and we've got everything else worked out. Do we want to take on the possibility of you know, something happening in terms of COVID-19 coming into our camps, and what does that feel like and look like for us as a town, you as a select board? I mean, I think that's the piece that we have to consider, because I do think that I can present to you some kind of, you know, procedure, operating plan that has way fewer kids and feels safe. But I think that we have to think about the other side of it.
Oh yeah, that's the big picture. That's the big decider, whether we're gonna feel comfortable with anything at all. But if we have something, how would you make it so it would be comfortable, so we wouldn't run the risk of bringing COVID into our community?
Well, I think that's what this did, is that there is that risk. I think that no matter what I do to make it a safe environment, I feel like we still have to accept that risk if we're
that might be our answer.
And that's your call. I mean, that's where I'm looking to you for guidance, because I feel like I could present you some kind of plan that looks really good on paper, and it's a good idea, but I think no matter what I come up with, there's going to be that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By nature, camp is a group activity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my own feeling is that we ought to have another discussion about this at the next selectmen meeting and perhaps have a goal of making a decision then.
Okay, well, I can present you,
I think waiting until the end of May to make a decision is too long.
Agreed.
So you're gonna make a decision at the May 13th meeting then,
Yes,
is your goal? Okay.
yes.
okay, well, then I'll work on those things so that you'll have that to look at and review for your own comfort level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we could have it prior to the meeting, it would be great so we could digest it.
Of course.
Okay,
Is,
great.
Excuse me, Margaret, were you thinking in terms of canceling all programs or just the camping?
I wasn't thinking in terms of all programs because I can definitely see a way, for instance, that hiking in small groups with separation could happen. And particularly if it involves older kids and adults. You know, because adults in particular are more attuned to some of the requirements and that kind of thing. And there could be a requirement that if there was somebody younger, that they have to be accompanied by a parent who is responsible for instructing them and making sure that they maintain their social distance. So, you know, I think there are ways of doing things with the hiking program, but I'm not sure about those camps.
Yeah, I wonder about the boats too.
Well, I can present you basically our recommendation for operating procedures for each of these things. So waterfront, camps, events, and hiking. So that we can treat them separately because they're all very different, so you may have a different idea about, oh, well, we can run these events in Packard Field, but we really can't do camps. Or I think there may be a safe way to run boats. Quite frankly, I think it fits in easier at this point. It fits in better than camps do. So they all need to be treated separately.
Good.
is there any other information other than the technical stuff that Brooke is gonna put together? Is there other information that you wanna consider for May 13th? Is there, or do you wanna just look at the programs and make the decision based off of that?
Well, hopefully we'll have some more guidance from the state by May 13th as well, and we'll see where the trends are.
Okay,
I agree.
There is a lot more going on than just that. We're getting really far in the book. The guidebook is looking really good, and we've gotten our first layout, and we were able to get a copy to Laura Waterman, who did what's that Craig's book that she wrote?
Forster Craig.
Yes. She looked at it and is writing us a nice review, and so that's coming along really well. The Pathfinder patch is still happening. We're also working on a new section of our website, which will be more hiking related, and it won't have the feel of the rec desk side. It'll be more like a traditional website that's really advertising kind of our hiking. So that's exciting. And we're also working on looking at the playground and how we can maybe make that a little safer. So we do have some other things going on. We also are looking at maybe opening up a couple days a week at the rec department for fishing licenses and parking passes if there's interest for that from the community. And that's about it for me.
Thanks. We'll talk to you again on the 13th.
Okay, I'll stick around for the rest of the meeting.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on to new business. Personnel policy modifications. You want to talk about that, Mark?
yep, so I provided you with a draft. We're gonna, as I said, bring most of the workforce, except for public safety and the post office. I'm still working with Brooke, what the schedule will exactly look like for recreation as well, but we're gonna by next Monday, we're gonna be answering the phones here at the town office 5 days a week. Continuing, we haven't really ever stopped on email. We've been answering that. We're going to set up.
Hold on a minute, I have to take care of something.
Yep. We're going to. Did she say she wanted me to wait?
She just said, hold on a second.
Okay,
She had
so I'll hold up.
I think I hear Sununu on my television.
Uh-oh. He
I
wasn't
think it's
supposed,
3 o'clock.
was he supposed, it's 3:30. Was he supposed to be on TV today?
He's on, I've got him in the background, kind of.
What's he talking about?
Doesn't require public mask usage like Massachusetts. Talking about lots of Massachusetts plates in New Hampshire. Nothing remarkable yet.
So he said that we are gonna require masks?
We
No,
are not.
We're not.
Not
Okay.
like, we don't expect it, he says.
Okay, good.
What channel is he on?
9?
Channel 9.
9.
I'll see the highlights later.
All right, so Margaret, let me just go back. So starting next Monday, town office will be open for telephonic and email business, our regular hours, 5 days a week. We're gonna have a drop-off box. If people want to call, we're not gonna have any inside customer traffic yet. We're going to have a drop-off box. People can make payments. They can give us new car titles and we can get new cars registered. And we'll have an explanation up later this week on the town website for all of this. But we will be here, staff will be here 5 days a week, starting next Monday.
Wearing masks or not wearing masks?
We will only be wearing masks here if we cannot properly socially distance.
Okay,
So,
so somebody will have them handy in case they need to,
people will have to have them, yes,
okay.
to wear them if they need to. We have ordered touchless thermometers to take everyone's temperature. So when people come in, they will have a regular review process each morning. We will record temperatures the same way that public safety has been doing all along. And there's a series of 4 questions that everybody will be asked
Right,
in accordance with the guidelines.
Okay.
So, and then anybody who is sick is not to report to work, and if they get sick during the day, they'll be sent home.
right, right.
So we're following the universal guidelines pretty much exactly as they are in the paperwork that I showed you. The other big change for the personnel policy is following the new federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act,
Hold
which
on.
is, yep,
Hold on a minute,
okay,
I'm sorry.
no
There's
problem,
somebody trying to deliver something to me that isn't mine, hold on.
no problem.
Sorry,
Okay.
wonders of being at home.
No problem. So we're implementing this Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which was passed by the federal government. It's an emergency paid sick leave program, funded by the federal government. We are working with the insurance companies right now to find out exactly how this fits into our short-term disability insurance coverage. And I'll report to you on May 13th. But anybody who has to miss work once we start the regular hours next Monday, we'll make sure that they are aware of what their rights are under this act.
Okay, so next Monday, when everybody comes back to work,
Yes,
if they are under the federal act, do they not, did I read that they don't have coverage for being absent for COVID-19 reasons for the first 2 weeks?
that's correct. It's the same well, we have a 7-day disqualification period, which comes out to be 5 work days. So it pretty much tracks with our disability insurance, but that's a detail that we're trying to work out with the insurance company now. But yes, there's a
Okay.
2-week disqualification period, but all of our employees have enough sick leave to cover that 2-week period.
Okay, but I thought in principle, when we started out with this, we said we didn't want people to have to use their leave, for instance, if they had to stay home and take care of kids who were not in school because of COVID-19.
Right, and up until next Monday, that's exactly what we have been doing. So the decision is, if you don't want us to charge them that 2 weeks, but continue to pay them, we can write that into the personnel policy changes. That's, you can do that. Now,
Okay,
but
now we don't have, number one, we know that we don't have any people that are ill at the moment.
That's
We can only
correct.
and nor do we know of any situations where a family member is ill. But we must have some folks who have a problem with their kids being out of school and not having daycare.
we do,
Right.
we do.
Right. So do these 2 weeks the first 2 weeks that are basically on the employer and the employer's personnel policy, do they have to be consecutive 2 weeks? So if you go back to our short-term disability insurance coverage, Right.
it has to be consecutive, and they have to be completely out of work to qualify for it. Okay, so they can't work in any capacity for us. What we have been doing is having employees work as much from home as they possibly can. Under this emergency paid sick leave, we are gonna have to treat them exactly the same way as we would under short-term disability insurance. So they are not gonna be able to do any work for us at all. And once they come back, then it's kind of negotiated with the insurance company what they're gonna be able to work, and if they're gonna be able to work in a limited capacity. So that's why it's not really, go ahead.
I think the thing that we have to think about most of all is the people who are staying home because they don't have daycare for their kids and their kids are home.
Yes, and that is covered under this act.
Right.
It is.
No, but
it
it
is
wouldn't be covered under disability.
It might care for your children, and that, again, those are the kinds of questions we're asking the
Okay.
insurance company. But yes,
Okay.
it might be a qualifying thing if providing that childcare might be covered. But I don't want to
Okay.
use, what I'm trying
And
not to do is I'm trying not to use disability insurance if we don't have to. If it is
Right.
COVID related, then I'd rather have them under the act because the federal government is going to pay for it. And it's not
Right.
going to go against our loss experience on the insurance side. I just want to
Right.
make sure that we don't make some assumptions about what the feds are gonna pay and what they're not gonna pay.
Right, and if I read it properly, basically what they're doing is giving you a rebate on your taxes, your employment taxes.
Yes,
That's the way they're gonna do that.
that's correct. And it has the same effect in our budget as if they had given us a reimbursement.
Right.
Yeah,
So the only concern that I have is that I think our original intention was to try and keep our employees whole,
yes.
versus, what they would normally get.
Mhm.
And, I am concerned about people who are not sick and whose relatives are not sick being off for the simple reason that they have to take care of their kids because the kids' school is not opening and not getting paid. I mean, they may, under normal circumstances, we would say, well, so what? Use your personal time. That's what it's for. But in this particular circumstance, I think it's a little unusual. I don't think it's the normal circumstance. And I'm wondering whether we can continue to keep those people whole if they have to take a day here or there because it's their turn to stay home with the kids.
And I think you can adopt that as a policy. There's nothing in the act that doesn't say, or that says that you can't do that as a board. If you want to, to pay them and not charge them actual sick time for that 2-week exclusionary period, that is your purview. There's nothing that prohibits that in the act.
This is family leave, not sick time, right?
Well,
In other words, as I read it, we're talking about a 2-week period where it's unpaid out of a 12-week period.
correct.
So that's the issue, is that if they have to stay home because their child is unable to attend school.
That's one of the criteria, yes, that they can
Right,
use.
so-
And it really expands, you're absolutely right, Rich, it really expands the Family Medical Leave Act to include COVID sickness or the fact that the children aren't in school and somebody has to stay home with them.
So what we're really looking at is making a decision about that first 2-week period, which by the act is unpaid. And we have to decide whether we want to extend something beyond that, the
Right.
first 2 weeks.
Whether or not you're
The
gonna
following 10
charge,
weeks, the federal government's going to reimburse for that.
that's correct. 2/3 of the pay, just like disability insurance, yes. And the thing is, so the question is, do you want to charge sick time for that 2-week period? Or do you want to have it not be a chargeable sick leave and provide pay during that period?
Again, I think that through what would have been the end of the school year, we ought to look at not charging for sick time if it's a COVID-19 related absence. Yeah,
Are we allowed to bonus employees in time instead of dollars?
Meaning what, Mike?
Meaning that if we have to stick to this act because we're not sure of how the act applies and will it interfere with our reimbursement from the government, that if we could bonus these people who need this time, the time as opposed to dollars. You know how we bonus people financially? Can we bonus them with time to make up for the time they would take?
So give them additional leave time on the other end when it's over?
Exactly.
My only,
So we don't, because I'm hearing some questions of whether the insurance company will pay for this or will they pay for that or where it will be with things. And I'm just wondering if that's another option as opposed to changing the policy.
okay,
that's not that suggestion. It's similar to something that I believe Spear is doing right now.
well,
There are employees who have to be absent for a COVID-19 reason.
So are they taking sick time now and then they'll get sick time on the other end?
If it's a COVID not related absence, and I'm not even gonna say sick time, saying personal time.
Yeah,
Personal
the
time.
semantics is what screws us up.
Well,
We call it
but
government policy.
the important distinction is, Mike, that our policy doesn't carry personal or vacation time to the
Well,
next
that's what I'm
year.
trying to figure out. Can we figure a way to bonus it instead of changing the policy to make it something that might not be acceptable to the insurance company? Can we make it an internal policy that works for us?
Yeah, I think you can bonus the time on the other end and just whatever time they use for COVID-19 under the act, that first 2 weeks, give them a bonus on the other end. I don't see any problem with that.
Right.
That way you're not technically paying them, we are charging them the sick time.
Exactly.
then you're
And then
gonna-
if the insurance companies come in and audit and do this
That's
other
right.
stuff and go, oh,
Yep, yep, we can do that. Because
I
you
agree
can,
with Margaret. I don't want to see anyone lose because of that situation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Mark, just refresh my memory, we actually call it sick time when somebody stays home to take care of a kid?
yes, under
Okay.
the Family Medical Leave Act, yes.
Okay.
Yep. So
Okay,
I like doing what Mike suggested if you
yeah,
want.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. We need to make sure that the employees understand that even if they are charged, if it's COVID-19 related incident,
Mhm.
that we are going to credit their account with an equal amount of time at the other end of this outbreak, if you will.
At the end of the year or whatever, yes, okay,
Whenever it happens to do
Whenever it
we don't know
happens.
yet, so.
Yep. okay,
But I think this is a good time to do it at the point in time where people are coming back to work and gonna be on essentially their regular schedules.
Yep.
You know, and that's just my thought on it.
well, and I think it, yeah, okay, yes, good idea.
Rich, I didn't hear from you. What do you think?
No, I'm agreeing with everything. I have nothing to add.
Okay.
Other than I agree.
Okay,
Okay, we will do that. I'll write it down and send you another copy.
okay, so essentially, I believe what we've agreed to is that we're gonna keep people whole by giving them an equal amount of time to what they have to take off in their bank, if they will, in their sick leave bank.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right. Does that cover everything you need on personnel policy?
Yes, I think so. We'll bring people back and, we'll get them back to work as quickly as we can. I
And
think,
I think just as we did the first time, they probably, need a letter from you explaining them.
yep. I will do that. I'm just making my note on here
Right.
about reimbursing. Okay,
Okay.
Yep.
All right, the next item of new business is reviewing the NHMA information sheets.
you have those in your packets.
Mhm.
And so the first thing would take a vote. As I wrote to you in the email, we've received about 500 plus or minus dollars, from, this federal government so far.
Have no idea what that's for, Mark?
There was no detail, Mike, it just said FEMA money or something like that.
Out of $2.8 trillion.
Out of 2.8 trillion, we got our 539 bucks. So,
Okay,
but I would recommend and we can do this again if we get additional payments. We can, just have you, vote to accept it my recommendation would be to vote to accept it and put it back into the lines where it was expended. So in this case, that would be probably most appropriately under our per diem pay in the fire department, because that's where we've been paying our on-call status when the guys have been working the extra hours during the week that they've been on.
Okay. Okay, do you need a motion for that, Mark?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I, Margaret Turner, will move that we accept the $539 from the federal government related to COVID-19 reimbursement. And can I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Rich Rita seconding. All in favor? Margaret, aye.
Rich, aye.
Mike, aye.
And I just, as you were taking that vote, I received a text that the announcements today are regarding funds, at least two of them are funds set aside for municipalities and potential costs of COVID. And the second one was an announcement of a weekly stipend for first responders through June 30th. So I will work with Chris and we'll try to find out what that is and see how we might want to go. All right.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'll have more information
Those
for
guys
you.
have been working hard, the ambulance and all the good tickets being written and that kind of thing.
Right. So
Need a lot of tickets to make up for the lost revenue.
exactly. Get out there and start writing, Chris. You're gonna get a stipend to do it. And then the second NHMA thing was on emergency order number 25, which regarded to tax collection, interest abatements, tax deeds, and tax liens. And I think we had mentioned this once at a previous meeting, but I don't think you had any definitive decisions. And is that correct? Am I remembering that correctly? Do you remember talking about this?
We made a definitive decision. And I think since we have had no inquiries or requests about this yet, that we ought to continue with abating them as we need to abate them.
Okay, very good.
People will let us know if they can't pay their taxes.
Yeah, I think
We are gonna listen.
I think a case-by-case basis is a good way to go. Is that
Right.
okay with you, Mike, Rich?
Yep, I'm good with that.
Okay, good. All right. And then you pretty much had your summer camp
Yes.
discussion. So you think everything else is good?
But I've got something I'd like to bring up if we're at the point for new business.
Yes.
Is that okay? I want to revisit something that we've been talking about for a while, dealing with the transfer station. And what I'm noticing is lots of people here that are not normally here, and more people here than are normally here. So a suggestion we had made before was to provide all property owners, residents and property owners, with stickers for the transfer station at no cost, where they would be seen and we would get a better grip on who's coming here and dumping and who's a property owner. So it might be something that this is the time to put it in. Just a thought for that. And if someone had someone using their unit for a couple of weeks, or long-term renters, you could get a pass at the town office when it's open as well. Cars they have in Waterville Valley, and we send them a free sticker for the dump and transfer station and the dumpsters. So we eliminate those issues that we've had in the past, and we can get a better grip on it, because I think we're going to be using more solid waste as we go forward through this period.
I'm just in support of Mike's motion. I did one of my walking polls yesterday. I do these occasionally, and I only talked to 11 people, but there were 6 residents, 3 second homeowners, and 2 people who were visiting but have been visiting for a long time. And they were all supportive of the idea of having a transfer sticker. one person suggested that it not be an ugly transfer sticker, that it would be nice if it had, you know, that nice logo, that mountain logo that we have on the transfer sticker. And another person,
A dumpster would be fine.
yeah. The other suggestion was that, you know, for people that have visitors that might be renting their place, that there may be a placard that they would keep at the condo, and then that visitor could use it while they were here and, you know, take it away. My feeling, Mike and I talked about this a little bit, but my feeling is that rather than asking people, because administratively, I think it's pretty complicated if everybody is calling in saying, send me 3, send me 4, et cetera, that we do something like, once we have the stickers and we're ready to start the program, we put 2 in each of the property mailings that go out and tell people if they need more to let us know. And
That's one way of doing it.
yeah, I mean, I think administratively on Sharon and Nick, that it's going to be a little more difficult if people are, you know, constantly calling up and saying, give me 3, give me 4, you know, and rather than doing a mass mailing and hopefully taking care of most everybody with 2 stickers to begin with. I don't know.
I have a concern where someone might want to get some for a friend who lives in Thornton, who works in the valley and things like that. And that's why we're trying to have the stickers to keep people who aren't really entitled to use our transfer station. So that's why my thought was, if you mailed it out and asked people just to give from where your cars are, we have a record of it. It's like, it just gives us a little bit better control. It might not be a necessity, but that's my initial thought.
Okay.
On
You have any
laptop.
thoughts, Rich?
I was thinking about it, wondering if instead of stickers, we went with placards. I operate under that particular model as well. So that people who have different, with 1 placard per property owner, or maybe 2, so that they can just leave it at the unit and you just put it in your car when you go, rather than a bunch of, you know, worrying about stickers on windshields.
Yeah, we're getting some input here live.
There's a question from Bill Powell. Won't everyone just use the other dumpsters around town?
Yeah. So did everyone hear that?
They could do that, yes, that they could,
Yeah, well,
that's possible now.
we had the,
Yeah.
remember we had the issue before with people dumping televisions over in the Mountain Meadow dumpsters? And you would think that if a public safety vehicle was driving by and saw a car without a sticker dumping televisions at a dumpster at Mountain Brook or another place, they would think it's an inappropriate person dumping.
Yeah, and we had another question about who monitors here at the transfer station, and we do have our public works folks are right there at the garage. They can keep an eye on it. Plus, we have the attendant up above in the transfer station. So we have staff around.
Camera.
So, and we have our cameras. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a video camera now at the transfer station.
Yeah.
But you know, Bill is absolutely correct that if people had such a mind, they could in fact use any of the other dumpsters in town to do what they're doing. I think what we're seeing a lot of is people that don't necessarily have a place in town. They're on their way to a job or they're coming from a job and they just decide they're going to use our transfer station because it's convenient and maybe they won't get charged here where they'll get charged somewhere else.
So why don't we, I mean, is this something, Mike, that you feel we need to do right away, or can you consider it and kind of talk around town until
No,
the 13th?
it was a thought I had that I thought I'd bring up because we discussed it before when we were talking about tightening up our costs on the transfer station.
Yeah,
And how we were dealing with people dumping couches in the wrong places, people from out of town, and our guys having to go into the dumpsters and pull out large items that were dangerous for them to pull out. And how could we control this more with people who are here and would respect the rules? And first of all, the people who would know the rules and what we expect at the dumpster stations.
Right. I'd like to think a little bit more about the placard as opposed to the sticker. And talk to Jim and Chris a little
Sure.
bit about that and just see what they
Okay.
think.
Are we aware of any other towns that have either a placard or a sticker system?
Oh, everybody in Massachusetts does.
Right.
Yeah, there are several towns around here that use stickers. And don't forget, they have their transfer stations are closed.
As well,
so,
which are restricted.
yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I just wonder if there's something to be found out from them.
Yeah,
That's what I was.
We'll
getting at.
definitely look around and see if there's a placard system. I don't know of any right off the top of my head. But
Okay.
I think overall it's a good idea. We just need to look at what the best way to do it is.
Right. Okay. Let's see, there was one other item on the agenda that's not on the agenda that I think is new business, and that was, at a request from one of the selectmen that we needed to talk about the wigwag article, that came out, the COVID-19 wigwag article that was front page in Wigwag. And, I was going to take my turn first because I do have something to say. And I have sent an email to the person who authored that article, who seemed to indicate or think that for some reason, let me quote exactly, it was at the end of the first page. So far, the Board of Selectmen has been absent in any further public communications, and we are in the dark as to their perspectives and concerns. My response to him was basically that our perspective and concerns always have been for the health and safety of all of our Waterville Valley residents, property owners, and visitors. That is consistent whether we have a health emergency going on or not. And I think we have tried to make our meetings as public as possible. We have always noticed our meetings. We have meetings the second and fourth Wednesday of every month at 3 p.m. in addition to having our COVID-19 update every Wednesday at 3. And during this time of public health emergency, we definitely made a decision that we wanted all of our email or other kind of inquiries to flow through town hall, through the town manager, and through public safety. But anytime that somebody receives a response from town hall, that has been reviewed and approved, as before it goes back out. Mark keeps us very well informed, and we are definitely involved in reviewing and making suggestions on the appropriate response to inquiries that come in. So that's kind of the part of the article that bothered me the most. There were other things in the article that I did not agree with, but as far as I'm concerned, it was an editorial, and the individual who wrote it had the right to say whatever he wanted to say. So that's kind of where I stood on that wigwag article. Let's see, let's go to Mike. Mike.
I really don't have anything other to say except that we as a board, meeting with public safety, public health, and the town manager, agreed that there would be one voice out of town hall. Instead of the selectmen coming up with a statement, the public safety coming up with a statement, town manager coming out with a statement. That the town manager and public safety spoke for the town. And that's why you didn't see any comments specifically from the Board of Selectmen on any of these things, because we didn't want to cloud the water with the statements that were coming out through our town manager.
Okay, Rich?
Yeah, just a couple quick points as well. As you said, Margaret, this was an editorial, and therefore one either the editorial boards or the author's opinion, and that's just the way it is. I do want to make plain that I know certainly in my case and the board as well, that the intention all along were plain. And while in the article it was mentioned what was said was offensive or that we backpedaled, I don't think either of those characterizations are correct. The intention was simply to ask non-residents, property owners, as well as residents, to please adhere to the state stay-at-home executive. Well, actually, they're emergency orders; they're not executive orders. And we use words like request and ask to make plain that there's no real enforcement behind any of this. The governor later noted that he meant when people need to go out to exercise that they should do so locally, and he coined the term hike local. And that this is all done for a couple of reasons, which was mentioned in both the 28th and 31st of March articles, having to do with demographics and the situation of the medical facilities up here, and specifically in Plymouth. It seems to me, as some of you have seen, perhaps those listening, I tend to try to walk around whenever the weather allows it. And it seems, especially on weekends to me, that there are people here in the valley who are not hiking locally. That is, they're coming up here for the weekend and then returning home, whether they're property owners or not. And that's really not the way people should be behaving towards others, in my opinion. And this would include also the idea that the governor mentioned in 1 April of a voluntary self-quarantine if one were to leave one's home to go someplace else, and that was supposed to be for 14 days. And I don't think we're seeing that observed completely either. And the point here, I guess I'm trying to make is I agree that we all have rights, but we all have responsibilities to each other as well. And we should all do what we can to abide by the emergency orders and the executive orders that have been handed down by the governor. And as public officials, we have to make that happen as best we can for the people who elected us. That comports with our oath of office, as I see it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on the matter.
Yeah, I had some other thoughts along that same line. And I recognize that there are a bunch of people that have stayed here, and I mean stayed here for all winter at home. And they are here with us now. They are resident property owners, they are renters, and all of the people who are in town have contributed to keeping Waterville back in 1 to 4 cases for the last 6 weeks. So people that are here and staying in town, regardless of whether you're a property owner or a resident or a renter, you're doing a great job. And we really appreciate that. And if we go back to, what were we looking for when we asked, and again, requested that second homeowners not consider coming in here, we absolutely know that you have the right to come and see your property. Nobody is disputing your right to come and see your property. And so if you choose to do that, there are some things that you should consider. And the first is that you don't know if you have the virus or not. Here in Waterville Valley, we are assuming everybody has the virus, and we are treating everybody accordingly, and we are using social distancing and masks and all of that kind of thing. And Rich alluded to this, and I've heard Andrew be very eloquent on this point. This is not about you. This is about other people and how your actions may affect other people if in fact you choose to do these things. that being said, if you do choose to come and, see your property because, you're want to check and make sure everything is okay in the property, and you really need to come up here and do that, you should be aware that in traveling from the south to Waterville Valley, you are going to be passing through the areas of New Hampshire that have the greatest community spread. So unless you are getting in your car in the south and you are packing all of your food with you and you are not stopping to get gas or get a bathroom break or that kind of thing, there aren't very many places to do that on the way up, you are facing perhaps additional community spread from what you may even have had at home. So it's something to consider. And the third thing that we tried to emphasize is that our medical resources here are excellent, but they are limited in terms of having more population in the area. So the example we like to use is the person who decides that they want to essentially travel to New Hampshire because they have cabin fever and they'd like to get out hiking for the weekend. So they go through the barrier on the Triple I road and they go up and they hike Mount Tecumseh, and as they're coming down, they slip on some ice and fall and break their leg. We now have a situation where our first responders have to go get that person. So they're out of commission for the point in time that they have to go and get that person. Furthermore, they are going to be donning full PPE equipment because, again, we don't know if somebody is infected or if they're not infected. So that takes the ambulance away in a situation which could have been avoided had the person who had gone hiking made different kinds of choices. And I hope that makes it clearer to people as to why we made this request to begin with. As I say, I think we're very fortunate here that everybody who is here and staying here seems to be doing a great job with social distancing, and we have not seen the spread, but those are just some things we'd like people to consider if they're thinking about coming up here because they have cabin fever or they just want to get away, et cetera, et cetera. Anything to add, guys?
I'd just like to add one thing, because from my personal experience, it will be a little different from what you, Rich and Margaret said. I've had a bunch of people who have come up here because their condos have been rented and they wanted to check them out. And they have come up with a clear understanding of what to do up here. So I have seen these people come in and act completely responsible, come in to their condo, see their condo, leave. Fortunately, we don't have many places for people to congregate. And that's what I think has helped us with keeping the spread intact. There's no place like, thank God Jugtown is doing the way they're doing it. It just makes perfect sense. But for the most part, most of the people who have been here understand, and they understand because of education, and we've seen what's happened in the last few weeks. And I think we're doing an exceptional job. And even the second homeowners are just a part of our community and contributing to keeping us safe.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, I don't know whether we got any comments or questions in on that, Mark, but.
Yeah, I just texted you all one. And I believe.
I'll start. I don't think any of this was meant to offend anyone. I think what happened was that first weekend, we were so overflowed with people coming up here to hike. The parking lots were full, the trails were full, our public safety and everybody else didn't know how to handle, and we didn't know what was coming down the road. And I think we've gone out of our way a couple of times to express our concerns and our apologies to anyone who was offended by our comments initially. The question was, it was from Bill Powell, what do you say to second homeowners who were offended?
Yep.
There was never any offense meant to anyone on my part. And I think I can speak for everybody else.
Yeah, certainly not on my part, and I know not on Rich's part either.
But thank you, I agree, thank you, Margaret. I would simply say that, I will do my duty as I think it best, and if it offends people, there is nothing I can do about it. I think you should think about not only your rights.
That we've gotten.
Okay. Did you have any additional comments, Chris? No, okay. All right, in that case, we are going to go into non-public. So the video will be going off. And we are going to go into a non-public session with the selectmen.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for coming.